Hedy Lamarr was a breathtaking actress in Hollywood during the late 1930s. Most people did not realize that Hedy was able to balance her complicated personal life and fame while becoming a prolific inventor.
Because of her remarkable contributions to America during her lifetime, she broke the women's right barrier by proving to the world that she, as an actress and a wife, could be smart and inventive. Hedy Lamarr, an inventor and actress from Vienna, Austria, traveled to Hollywood in 1939 to become an actress. Throughout her early acting career, Hedy Lamarr broke women's rights barriers by creating the technology frequency hopping.
It was her intention to help the U.S. Navy defeat the Nazis. It was presumed to lead torpedoes directly into the enemy ships.
She created it, only to then be turned down just because of her gender.
It was inequitable for the Navy to assume that Hedy was unable to create a technology this elaborate. However, she demonstrated to America that any person, no matter their sex, can develop an impeccable creation.
When Hedy Lamarr was a little girl, she learned that she loved to act and invent. She would always come up with incredible ideas. Her favorite class in school was chemistry. This is mainly what inspired Hedy Lamarr's creative ideas later in her life.
However, people started to notice her uncommon beauty. As soon as people started to take notice of her looks, she realized that it would only be possible for her to have a profession in acting. Nobody would ever take her seriously if she were an inventor, which proved to be true later in her life.
After Hedy graduated high school, she played a big part in one of her most famous movies, Ecstasy, in 1933. This movie caught the attention of her soon-to-be husband, Friedrich Mandl. He worked for a leading Austrian armament firm. Friedrich Mandl realized he loved Hedy and he married her on August 10, 1933.
The marriage opened up Hedy's eyes. She was able to see all kinds of different military weaponry at the firm. The experience reminded Hedy about her skill for inventing. Because of this marriage, it gave Hedy an advantage when she started to create her technology in order to help end World War II. Little did she know that this marriage helped her to break women's rights barriers with her brilliant mind.
She originally loved Mandl, but he turned out to be a very controlling husband. He convinced Hedy to switch her religion to Catholicism because she was Jewish. He was also rumored to have spent hundreds of dollars trying to buy out every copy of the movie Ecstasy. Hedy then realized that she wanted to be worth something more in her life. She didn't want to be controlled by someone else.
One night, at a dinner party with her husband, Hedy drugged one of the maids. She did this in order to flee from Mandl and to become a world-famous actress. She first went to Paris, then London, and finally she sailed to Hollywood in 1938. During her voyage to California, she met Louis B. Mayer, who worked for MGM Studios.
Hedy then convinced him to hire her, and she signed a contract. Once they reached Hollywood, Hedy starred in a bunch of movies. She was promoted as the most beautiful woman in the world. Some of her most famous movies include Algiers, Come Live With Me, Boomtown, and many more.
The more movies that were released, the more famous Hedy got. She became fully concentrated on her acting and she had no time for other interests.
This was until she started to feel lonely. She had no one to talk to after a long day. She used to talk to her mother when she felt like this. However, her mother was not with her in Hollywood.
Hedy Lamarr needed her mother with her in Hollywood. However, it would be nearly impossible to travel from Austria to America because of World War II. Hedy didn't feel that it was right for her to be living the American dream in Hollywood while people were suffering elsewhere. Because of her compassion towards others, she later broke gender barriers for women.
She had left Europe at a time when it was in a very bad situation and the Nazis were taking over the whole country. So she knew what it was like. She knew what was going on there and how bad things were. She came to America. She was living and working as an American, and she wanted to do whatever she could to help the war effort to stop the war.
This is what mainly inspired her phenomenal invention, frequency hopping. Her intention of creating this was to help end World War II, both for her mom and all the people suffering in Europe.
Therefore, every day Hedy Lamarr would film movies, while at night she would stay up generating ideas on how to help end World War II with an invention.
In 1941, she devised a plan for ending World War II. Her plan was intended to solve the problem of a radio-guided torpedo in the military. The system involved the use of frequency hopping amongst radio waves, with both transmitter and receiver hopping to new frequencies together. Doing so prevented the interception of radio waves, allowing the torpedo to find its target.
She used different frequencies in order to guide the torpedoes into enemy transmitters on different ships. However, like all good inventors, she needed the help of another to execute her idea.
Hedy Lamarr was not sure how to bring her idea to life. That's when she met piano composer George Antheil at a dinner party. She thought that he would be perfect to help her with her invention.
George Antheil had already worked previously with electronic musical instruments. He created a punch card-like device that could bring together a transmitter and a receiver. This device was very similar to a piano roll. It used 88 different frequencies, just like the 88 different keys on a piano.
After Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil created their invention, they started to search for a patent in military support. They were awarded U.S. patent number 2,292,387 in 1942. Even though they were rewarded with the patent, the military rejected the intellectual idea.
This was abundantly unreasonable for the military to decline this astounding invention. Hedy was an astute woman who did not deserve this. She was trying to prove to the world that just because you're attractive doesn't mean you're empty-headed. Hedy Lamarr broke women's rights barriers by authenticating that she could produce something as intricate as her innovation.
I think she was a very, very, very smart woman who, unfortunately, because of the time she lived in, wasn't properly appreciated.
Even though the military was devilishly ignorant to turn down her invention, she still felt empowered to help end the war. She had already learned that she could never be an inventor because of her beauty, so she figured why not put that to use. Hedy had decided that instead, she would raise money for the war by selling war bonds.
I worked for the government at the bond tour.
Really how? And
by appearing, by dancing with these people.
She traveled to 16 cities in 10 days and sold over $25 million in war bonds. After Hedy completed yet another accomplishment, she later on forgot about her skill and continued with filming movies. Her patent for military support expired over the years without her even earning a cent. During the duration of time in which Hedy's patent was still active, the military realized their foolishness and they figured out how stunning her innovation really was.
Once they realized their mistake, they then decided to wait for her patent to expire. Once it did, they could use it and take it as their own. The military was acting tremendously unscrupulous and they used Hedy's invention for future wars. Meanwhile, Hedy kept on filming movies until 1958, not having any clue what her invention was being used for. Hedy married 5 more times throughout her lifetime. It wasn't until many years later that Hedy found out what the military did. The public started to get curious about what the military was hiding. Once people figured out that Hedy was behind this invention, she earned awards for it.
Hedy Lamarr earned the Electronic Frontier Foundation Award, a joint award along with George Antheil. She was also the first woman to receive the Invention Convention's Bowlby-Gnast Spirit of Achievement Award. Finally, she was also inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame for the development of frequency hopping in 2014.
Because I think she reflects that you can be beautiful and brilliant. And I think, every young woman can aspire to be both. They don't have to choose brains over beauty, which I feel like is sort of what we're guided to, don't you? I mean, I look at TV, even commercials, whatever. Everything in our society guides us to, well, if you're pretty, you can do this, and if you're not pretty, well, you should really develop your mind. And it's like, no, that's not what it is. She had a real passion for science. She had a passion for science. She liked being in movies, but she had a passion for science. Why shouldn't she have been able to do both? And she found ways to do it. She found the few people who really supported her, but everybody deserves it.
Hedy Lamarr's invention today is used all around the world for many different things. It is used in wars, which was its original intended use. Now as technology is evolving, it is also used in Wi-Fi, cell phones, GPS, and much more. Hedy Lamarr did not only create an astonishing technology, but she also broke world barriers by proving to the world that women can be attractive and pretty, while also expressing their true interest.